What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing the entirety of Travis Scott's album merch career over the last 8 years. Join us in this video as we venture from Rodeo all the way to Utopia, where you can see the evolution and growth of Travis Scott's merch throughout his entire career. Now, I'll go ahead and include some chapters so you guys can skip around to the different albums if you'd like, but in this video we're going to be reviewing each album and the merch that was associated with every one of them. Now, while you're here, you might as well drop a like and subscribe, and join our free Discord to stay up to date with the latest and the greatest. You might as well grab some snacks while you're at it, because this is my longest video yet, and I'd love to know what you guys think. And with that being said, our video starts off 8 years ago in 2015 for the release of Travis Scott's debut album, Rodeo. And remember, it's lit! And before we get started, I wanted to of course give a special shout out to my homie Strain Beats, who's curating the beats for this video. What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and today we gotta take a look at Travis Scott's Rodeo. Now, this video takes us back all the way to 2015, and we're going to be taking a look at the Rodeo merch, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Now, this Rodeo merch release was kind of hard to cover because this was 8 years ago, so I did my research and I did my best to actually cover authentic items, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a second. Before we go any further, I also wanted to point out, in case you missed it, that today Travis posted on his Instagram story previewing a brand new colorway for his upcoming Nike Jordan collab for the Nike Cut the Checks. Personally, I think these are super hard, and let me know in the comments if you're going to try to get your hands on them. Now, back in 2015, XXL Magazine covered the Rodeo drop, and as you can see from Travis's name, he still had the $sign in his name back then. So for those of you that didn't know, now you know. When it comes to this actual Rodeo merch, it was hard to find pricing, but I did see that the collection ranged anywhere from $18 to $275. And I also wanted to point out that I know I've been covering all of his other album releases, so I just wanted to shout out everybody that recommended that I make this Rodeo merch review along with a couple of other real ones that I've been talking to, so I appreciate every single one of you. Now, if you didn't know, back in 2015, the album was super hyped up given that it was his first debut album, and it initially released on September 4th, 2015. I wanted to point out that on the Rodeo tour, he was on tour with Young Thug, and shout out to my guy Jeffrey one time. Everybody drop a free Young Thug in the comments. And this Rodeo tour was super important for Travis because it laid the foundation for him to see just how lit and live his shows would be, as long as how hard his fans would go. I also wanted to point out my favorite song on the album features Bieber. Of course, that's Maria, I'm Drunk, and let me know your favorite song in the comments. Now, when it comes to merch, the first thing I have to cover is of course the most iconic piece from the collection. And you might be wondering what that is, and we're actually looking at it right now. On the Rodeo cover, Travis Scott used an action figure that he then ended up dropping on his website. Now, like I said, the actual website itself was hard to find, however I was able to find the screenshot of when the actual toy or action figure dropped, and let me know in the comments if you think this thing is hard. I definitely regret not being able to get my hands on it back in the day. Now, while we're looking at the actual drop from the website, I want you guys to think about just how much you would actually pay for this. If you ended up guessing that the retail for this was going to cost $150, you were correct. And you might be thinking that's a little bit steep for an action figure, but let's go ahead and take a look at just how much it costs today if you wanted to get your hands on it. Yup, you see that right, the last sale was $880, and it's not uncommon for sales of the action figure to go over $1,000, so if you want to get your hands on them, I wish you the best of luck, and let me hold a couple bucks. Now, when it comes to this merch, it was very different from the rest of his album merch drops because it was only available for 72 hours, so if you weren't able to cop within the first 3 days, you were out of luck. Now, before we get into the rest of this collection, I also wanted to start off by showing off my favorite t-shirt. The retail on this was apparently $40, and personally, I think it's a great pickup. Especially 8 years later, I think it still fits even with this Utopia aesthetic and collection. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, it was a little bit difficult to do research on this merch drop because it was 8 years ago and there wasn't a whole lot of information available. And yeah, you can always Google Travis Scott Rodeo merch, but there are so many fake pieces, I wanted to make sure that we only focused on the ones I can guarantee were real and part of the drop. A lot of people have made a lot of money making fake merch, and that's not something I wanted to cover in this video, but to each their own. As you can see, the merch was pretty limited in terms of the amount of tees and hoodies, however there was still variety all the way back in 2015, a whole 8 years ago. The drop also featured some pretty dope socks we're going to take a look at in just a moment, an iPhone case, which you can tell just how dated that model was, and something we've seen in every single album merch drop apart from Utopia, some kind of smoker item such as a lighter, or in this case an ashtray as well. So I think it's safe to say that my boy LaFlame definitely had us stoners in mind, and shout out to all of y'all that are geeked while watching this video. Now if you're like me, whenever I don't know something I go to Reddit, and I was actually able to find some dope information about shipping when it comes to this merch. Even for you international people, I feel for you for this Utopia drop, but take a look at the fact that this person bought 3 items and it was only $28 US to ship to Australia. Next up, we've got somebody that lived in Canada that was able to pick up a Rodeo merch tee for only $12. And I think that's pretty crazy because I know some of you guys were getting hit with fees all the way up to $50-$60 just to ship an item. So I feel for you guys, and shout out to all of you international ragers. And next up, we're looking at the Rodeo bomber jacket collection that Travis was wearing at the beginning of this video. The retail on this ran up to $275, and I read that the quality was horrible, and a lot of people regretted picking it up, which is kind of disappointing. And I also read that the majority, if not all of the Rodeo merch was printed on low quality stuff like Gildan material, and back in 2015 it wasn't the greatest. Now next up, we're looking at one of my favorite hats Travis has ever dropped, which is the Rodeo dad hat right here. And if you wanted to add this one to your collection, it was going to cost you a retail price of $40. My favorite feature is probably this Rodeo stitching that's on the back of the hat, and as somebody that wears a lot of hats, I know I was going to wear the hell out of this one if I ever got my hands on it. As you can see, it doesn't really have a shape or structure, which might mean it's kind of low quality, but I'm not going to hold it against LaFlame because of course this was part of his first ever merch drop, so it is what it is, and I know the quality of his hats and his merch have definitely gotten better over the years. Now one thing I always appreciated about Travis is the fact that he actually wore his merch. The same pieces that were available to fans, he was always spotted repping them, and I know so many artists that have just dropped merch and are never spotted wearing it, which I think kind of takes away from how special these actual collections are. Here's another low quality picture, but as you can see, LaFlame was faded and still spotted wearing his own damn Rodeo merch, so shout out to you, Travis. Now next up, we're taking a look at this dope A-Team jacket, which featured some pretty hard and blazing patches. As you can see, we've got the flag of Texas, the Cactus Jack logo, a horseshoe, and some more Rodeo branding, which honestly I think is really sick. These next few pieces I don't think are super crazy, but again they feature the Rodeo branding and the always present and always famous cactus that Travis Scott has adopted and incorporated into his style. Now this next hoodie I think is super generic and it's just a stock photo of some flames. However, I get it because we're talking about none other than Travis Scott, aka LaFlame. But I will also point out that the hoodies were going anywhere from $55 to $75. Next up, we're looking at a dope tee here that features the disassembled Travis Scott Rodeo action figure, and honestly, if I could go back in time, I would definitely pick it up. Here's the first long sleeve that we have available to us, and the funny thing about this is I've actually seen that cactus as a stock image when I've tried to create Travis Scott thumbnails, so that one's kind of lazy. And following up with the cactus here, of course Travis had to drop some cactus themed leggings. I couldn't find an exact price on retail for these, but again, I think they're a little bit lazy but also kind of hard at the same time. Now this next Rodeo merch tee is actually really hard, and I think it's a dope tribute to the old vintage rap tees we used to see. And personally, I really like it because it really shows how much Travis's merch has matured and evolved over the last 8 years leading up to the most recent Utopia drops. Now personally, I think that the Rodeo 3-pack of socks was actually really dope, and for a price of $25, it's about standard when it comes to these merch drops. And I think they're definitely pieces that I would wear myself, especially along with some dope Travis Scott sneakers. So let me know in the comments if you agree, and what's your favorite merch piece that we've seen so far. Now coming up, we've got to take a look at these dope Rodeo themed Zippo lighters. If you didn't know, the Zippo brand has been around since like World War II, and they're very iconic lighters. Even if you're not a smoker, I think that these would be really sick and dope to add to anybody's collection, and I personally like this one right here, which has the now iconic burning cactus, which was only seen during this Rodeo era. Next up, of course, we've got the ashtray to go with this collection when you're smoking, and personally I think that horse head or cow's head is really dope, although I don't think I would actually use this ashtray, and I would more so keep it as kind of a collectible because I think it's pretty hard. Now I wanted to include some comments all the way back from 8 years ago just so you could see how far opinions have changed. Someone goes on to call Travis Scott a flavor of the month, and a lot of people were saying that back in the day he wasn't rapping about anything. Now I wanted to take the time to also point something out about accessibility when it comes to this merch. This drop was 8 years ago, and if you really want to get your hands on it, there are some legit pieces out there. I did find some on this website called Grailed, which is super famous for selling streetwear stuff like this, but my biggest advice and opinion when it comes to looking for this merch, because there is so much bootleg and fake pieces out there, that you remember my #1 rule. If the price is too good to be true, it probably is. But to show you an example of one of the tees I highlighted in this video, this price of $283, formerly $350, would make sense given that the tee is 8 years old. Always check out the history of the seller, and as you can see, this person has 146 reviews, and apparently it's also been authenticated, as you can see from this little guarantee right here. So just keep that in mind if you're really trying to get yourself some real pieces from this rodeo merch era. Now with that, I just had to highlight the fact that Travis has definitely come a long way. From the rodeo action figure to Utopia that we've had now, I think it's safe to say as a fan since then that this dude does not miss. And if you made it this far, at this point, let me know what your favorite merch drop has been from all of his albums. I just wanted to shout out every single one of you that watches these videos and has subscribed over the last few weeks. Making these videos has definitely been the highlight of my day, and interacting with you guys and seeing your comments definitely motivates me to keep going. And I know I can't keep making Travis Scott merch videos forever, so if you guys want to see me cover other artists, let me know in the comments, and also what other types of videos you'd like to see. And of course, I'll go ahead and make a video when the Utopia tour does finally get announced as well, so I could go ahead and also talk about how I'm going to be giving away a free ticket to the upcoming Utopia tour. Now with that being said, guys, I appreciate all of you for checking this video out, for staying around, for subscribing, and as always guys, stay safe in the kitchen. It's lit, straight up, and peace. What's going on everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and today's video takes us all the way back to 2016. Back when Travis Scott released his second album, Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight. And as you can see in this photo right here, LaFlame was going just as hard back in 2016 as he does today. Now the focus of this video is going to be reviewing the 2016 release of the Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight merch. And speaking of the album, my top 3 songs are probably Goosebumps, Outside, and Lose. Let me know your favorites in the comments, and while you're here, you might as well go ahead and drop a like and subscribe. Now I'm sure you guys didn't think Travis Scott was going just as hard as he is today with the merch 7 years ago, but you're in for quite a treat. And while he did just drop the latest Utopia merch 2 drop, which I covered in a recent video, the focus of this one is going to be comparing Birds in the Trap merch versus Utopia. And again, shout out to all of you that checked out my video comparing the Astroworld merch to Utopia. And before we dive into this review, I just wanted to give a special shout out to my new friends that I've made throughout these last few videos. It's been a real pleasure getting to connect with you guys, so make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at wedontcookfood, just so you guys can stay up to date with the latest and the greatest, and I'm following all my real ones back, so I appreciate you guys. Now back to discussing this greatness. As you guys can see, we are looking at the Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight merch drop all the way back in 2016. Now if you didn't know, the album originally released back on September 2nd, 2016, however this merch drop actually came 1 week before the actual album came out. And one thing you guys will notice right off the bat with this Birds merch is that there is a lot of repetition that we'll end up seeing throughout this actual collection. Now the cool thing is that the price is staying pretty consistent, and as you can see back in 2016 the tees were starting at $40. Now next up we've got these really sick Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight long sleeves, which upgraded us to $55, but personally I think that they're super hard. Now another thing I wanted to point out, if it's not already obvious from these first 2 pieces, is that we're going to be seeing a lot of bird and eagle related branding, given that the album is called Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight. And while we're looking at these first few pieces, I'd like to know in the comments which colorway you guys prefer. Now next up we're looking at the trap hoodies right here, which feature the title, again, Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight on the front breast. And I'd like to point out that I think $70 for a hoodie like this, although a little bit generic, is still pretty reasonable, especially for an artist merch drop. Now next up here we're going to be taking a look at some Birds hats, which I think are pretty hard despite the fact that they're really simple. Again, hats priced for $40 are pretty consistent with the way Astroworld merch hats were as well, and although the Utopia merch hats are a little bit more expensive, I know the quality has also increased with these over the last few years, so again I just wanted you guys to see. Personally, out of all of these hats, I'd probably have to cop this one right here or the one to the left of it, which I think would probably fit a lot of my outfits just a little bit better. Now we do have some of my favorite pieces of this collection coming up soon, and of course you could get the album cover tee right here for $40, which it's cool of course, but nothing too crazy. My favorite tees coming up are these right here, which are of course the Lightning t-shirts. And I remember these being pretty popular all the way back in 2016 and 2017 when people started wearing them to support the album. And if you didn't notice with the price, of course, for these, they bumped up by $5, which I don't mind given that there's a hell of a lot more graphic being printed on the tee, so it makes sense. Next up, we've got some trap socks right here, which if you were able to hold on to these for all these years, I'm sure they would have some resale value, because personally I think that they're pretty hard, and who doesn't love a clean pair of socks? And it just goes to show you that all the way back in 2016, you could basically put together a full outfit and be fully fitted in Travis Scott gear. Next up, we've got this dope Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight shirt, and one thing I want to remark is the merch back in the day was not the greatest. They were definitely printing on Gildan tees, which of course have gotten better with time. However, back then they were not that great. Now we're taking a look at some more kind of novelty items, if you will, and for 40 bucks you could of course pick up a Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight branded backpack. They had these two bandanas available here for $15, which I don't think I saw anybody actually pick them up, but I don't hate them at all. And there's a shout out to Texas, given that Travis reps Houston super hard. Now following up that first backpack we just saw, we've got a black one right here that also features some sick branding from the album, and $40 for a backpack especially is pretty reasonable, I would say. Now we've got a dope little robe here for 100 bucks, and you know I would pick this up today if it was available, just so I could be pretending I'm on my Hugh Hefner-ish, you know, big pimpin'. Now we've got these dope boxers right here, which I would totally pick up today if they were still available. So LaFlame, if you ever watch this or anybody from your team, holla at your boy, man. We got plenty of ideas. Now something we haven't seen in a merch drop in quite some time for LaFlame is a beanie. So here you can see a Travis Scott merch beanie for a very reasonable price of 30 bucks, which isn't so bad. Now, of course, like I said, that bird, that eagle is all over this merch branding. So as you can tell from back in the day, Travis was definitely the king of merch, and this is before the McDonald's collab, before the Fortnite collab. Anything this dude touched was turning to gold. We're gonna see a hell of a lot more random items in this drop. And also let me know if you guys would have also picked up any of the pieces that we've seen together so far. Like I said, we're gonna see a lot of random pieces like a duffel bag like this, a pillow and a blanket that we're gonna see coming up, and even something that you'd use in the bedroom, if you know what I'm saying. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to find a whole lot of information when it comes to resale when it came to these items because, like I said, this came out 7 years ago, and this was even before I think the platform StockX was even around, or it was just starting to get around, and they didn't even carry a lot of merch like that. Now, another big point I wanted to talk about is the fact that these merch purchases were not contributing towards the album sales at the time, which if you think about it is pretty insane. So the people that were really picking this up were really his fans and people that were interested in the pieces and people that just wanted to support him. Now, as we saw in the Astroworld merch drop, we also got an ashtray, but unfortunately that's the only real big smoker related thing other than a Zippo lighter, which I think is pretty sick. However, I still would have liked to see some Travis Scott blunt papers or some rolling papers or something lit like that, if you feel me. Now we're coming up on the last couple of items here, which might be some of my favorite and the goofiest novelty items he's dropped so far, including that plushie there, this big ass flashlight you can whack somebody over the head with, and a condom that, like I said, you can use for the bedroom. So let's get it, guys. If you made it this far, like that condom said, thank you so much for tuning into this drop. I thought it would be really interesting, especially for people that weren't around or that weren't really interested in his merch or his music back in 2016. So if you made it this far, let me know what you guys thought of this video. More heat on the way. I appreciate every single one of you that tunes into these and that subscribes. Also, don't forget, I just dropped in one of my videos that I'm going to be doing a giveaway for a ticket to Utopia. Once that tour is released, we'll find out some more information. But as always, guys, thank you so much for cooking with the kitchen. Stay safe, and as always, it's lit. What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode. And if you're like me, I've been listening to Utopia nonstop since the release this past Friday. Now, if you're also like me, you probably dropped a bag on some amazing Utopia merch. Personally, I can't get enough of this collection, and if you couldn't tell, check out any of my last few videos. However, when I was sitting here today listening to the album, I also started thinking about Astroworld. And if you didn't know, today's actually 5 years since Travis Scott initially tweeted the release date of August 3rd, 2018. Why don't you go ahead and take a look at the trailer?
In the middle of Houston, Texas, is a world called Astroworld. Bring the whole family, for thrilling rides, exciting adventures, and memories you'll cherish for a lifetime. Houston's premier
Now hopefully I don't get a copyright strike for this part of the video, and if I do, y'all better believe I'm really making these for you guys, so you might as well go ahead and drop a like and subscribe. Now for the rest of this video, it got me thinking. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Astroworld merch that initially dropped back in 2018, and I want you guys to let me know which one you guys think is better in the comments. Now I know you guys didn't expect me to be able to actually review this the same way I've been able to review the Utopia merch, but never fear, it's your boy. Now this is the first wave of Astroworld merch that released back in 2018, and although it only looks like there's 3 pieces, Travis then ended up going and releasing a hell of a lot more, which we're going to take a look at in a second. I wanted to include some resale so you guys could see how these pieces are holding up 5 years later, and for a $40 tee, the last sale was $76. Now let's take a look at this hoodie right here, and as you can see, the last sale was $199, but the most surprising of all to me was this hat right here. Original retail for $40, and as you can see, it just last sold for $154. When it comes to this Utopia merch, it might be something similar down the line, of course, so go ahead and keep that in mind if you're actually buying these pieces to resell. Now like I mentioned, these were the first couple of pieces, but now we're about to see the second wave of Astroworld merch, and as you can see in just a second, there's a hell of a lot more variety. And looking back, I can't believe just how much variety there was in this actual drop, when in comparison for this Utopia merch drop, for example, we've only had 1 hoodie out of 2 merch drops. This Astroworld merch drop is super loaded with a lot of crazy accessories, so make sure you guys stay tuned. Starting off, we're going to be looking at these stickers right here, which is already something that we didn't get with the Utopia merch drop, and personally I think these are pretty cool. They're themed after Astroworld, of course, so the space thing makes sense. Now here you guys can see another promotional tee for only $25, which is a steal. This right here was a really cool piece because if you didn't know, Travis Scott had a documentary called Look Mom, I Can Fly, and that's merch that's related to it. In this part of the video, I'm also going to be picking some random pieces just to show you how well the resale is holding up, so you have an idea, of course, 5 years later, how those pieces are doing. Now, would you believe it if I told you that as part of the Astroworld merch drop, there was even a skateboard that was available, and as you can see, with the retail price of $75, 5 years later it last sold for $130. Again, I think that that's something that would have been really sick as part of this Utopia drop, and I would have loved to hang up a skateboard on the wall because I don't actually have any decks up right now. Now, one of the biggest things I noticed while going through this Astroworld drop back from 5 years ago is the fact that the price points have definitely changed quite a bit. You'll notice that a lot of these t-shirts start at $40, whereas this Utopia dropped, I think the cheapest was $55, and we even saw a $25 tee as part of this Astroworld drop. This, for example, is another pricier item, this Levi's denim jacket, so I wanted to see how it was holding up when the retail was so expensive, and as you can see, the resale wasn't treating it so well. So while we're on the topic of price points, I wanted to ask your guys' opinion. What do you think is a fair price for a concert tee or a tee like this to support the album? Personally, when I saw the St. Michael tee going for $150 as part of this Utopia drop, the price kind of scared me away because, it's $150 for a tee, despite it being a collab with the high fashion brand, and I think although it is pretty sick, I can see how that price can definitely scare some people away. I remember when I was first going to concerts when tees were still $25, and I was super thankful for that, and then of course they bumped up to $40, which has kind of become the new norm. Another thing I was thinking about while looking at this Astroworld drop is the similarity between this Utopia drop and the fact that there have been multiple waves now. I think in total Astroworld might have had 3 or 4 actual different waves of merch drops, all including different types of accessories and different types of things that you can include towards your outfit. And as we've seen so far with Utopia, although we thought that the first merch drop was going to be the last, here we are already at our second. Now these next 2 accessories from the Astroworld drop might be my favorite. Yep, you're looking at a weed grinder and an ashtray so you could get geeked and be the literal highest man in the room, so shout out to Travis. As you can see, another one of those pricey items, this rug right here actually doubled in value almost. So when I think about the accessory like the briefcase, which we're going to take a look at a little bit later in this video from this Utopia drop, I can definitely see there being some value in terms of it being a novelty item as well as a collector's one. Now these slides are definitely something I bet none of you guys expected or remembered, and it just goes to show you how diverse and how much variety there was when it came to this actual Astroworld drop. Now as we near the end of the Astroworld merch drop here, I just wanted you guys to again remember how diverse the actual drop was. 2018 was a different time in the music industry as well, and these merch sales were able to inflate album sale numbers as well. I don't think Travis needed that at all given how lit Astroworld ended up being as an album, but the actual boost in merch sales definitely helped count towards the album sales, so there's no wonder why he actually had so much variety here when you really think about it. Now I was able to take a look in depth kind of at one item like this, just so you guys can see and get an idea how shipping was. Now the expected shipping at the time back in 2018 was 3 to 4 weeks, however I personally waited up to 4 months for some of these Astroworld pieces. And something else that's pretty cool that you guys can see is that every single one of these purchases from the Astroworld merch also included a pre-sale ticket for the eventual Astroworld festival or Astroworld concert. I think that that's something pretty cool that this Utopia merch should have done as well. However, I think Travis is still going to announce the Utopia Arena Tour sometime this upcoming week, so make sure you guys stay tuned, and I also wouldn't be surprised if there's some more merch associated with that. Now, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I wanted to touch base really quick on this Utopia briefcase, because according to the Cactus Jack Discord, Travis's own official Discord, apparently there's a golden ticket that's been hidden in some of these briefcases. Now what that golden ticket means is you're probably going to get a free ticket to the upcoming tour, which has yet to be announced. However, there might also be some goodies in this, so I think that's what helps justify the $150 price range despite it being a cool collector's item otherwise. Now I just wanted to recap this video to get your guys' thoughts, given that we're in the middle of this Utopia rollout, and I know not all fans were around during the Astroworld era, so I thought that this would be a cool video for you to see the difference in drops and the different types of items that were actually dropping. Now with all this being said, let me know in the comments which drop do you think was better. Do you think that the Astroworld drop ended up having a more well-rounded type of merch drop, or do you prefer this Utopia one? All I know is Travis Scott continues to solidify himself as a legend. This Utopia album is definitely a classic that just adds to his legacy further. Now if you made it this far, thank you so much for checking out this video, and again, you might as well drop a like and subscribe. Let me know your favorite song off of Utopia, and stay safe guys. Peace. What's going on everybody, it's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and as you can see, the Travis Scott Utopia rollout is in full effect. Now in this video, we're taking a look at the latest Utopia merch for the latest album. If you're not familiar, Travis Scott is slated to release his brand new 4th studio album Utopia, allegedly later this month. Fingers crossed and drum roll please. So today we got even further proof that the album is not too far off from release and probably later this month. Now, a lot of times with Travis Scott merch, the biggest headache when it comes to his merch is that it takes on average 4 to 8 weeks, sometimes even more, for the pieces to actually release, which is definitely a bummer given that you're paying sometimes $125 for, say, a sweatshirt, and then you're not getting it for 3 to 4 months later. So you'll find out, which is a pleasant surprise relative to this drop right here, and we're going to take a look in just a second here, that a lot of his merch, if not all of them, for this Utopia drop is actually releasing 1 week after the release of the album. Yes, you heard that correctly. You're actually going to get your Travis Scott Utopia merch on time, and it shouldn't be taking 4 months and sometimes even longer just to get them. Now, the curious thing to me about this merch drop is that they have everything listed as a bundle, and if you didn't know, quite a few years ago, artists would inflate their album sales by basically including a digital album download as part of their album sale and as part of their merchandise. So what would end up happening is an album that didn't necessarily or wasn't necessarily going to get the same hype, it was able to technically chart or sell more because the album was considered being purchased by the customer every time a piece of merch was purchased. Now, the big thing about this merch drop for Utopia, which I think is pretty great, is he's got some entry-level pieces starting at $55 a tee, which I think is an improvement given that a lot of times his merch can be a little bit more pricey. Now, as you can see from some of the branding on here, this is basically advertising, again, the Utopia album, and it's saying officially that it is the 4th studio album of Travis Scott. Now, if you're like me, a Travis Scott fan since the Rodeo days and even days before Rodeo, I'm super stoked for this album, and if you agree, let me know in the comments. Now, as we take a further look at this merch, I basically wanted to point out some of the pieces I thought kind of stood out a little bit more and have some dope Utopia branding associated with it. Now, another thing I wanted to point out about Travis Scott's merch is that in general, he's always had pretty fire collabs and just a really dope aesthetic direction. We know he's super heavy into the brown tones and brown hues and earth tones and things like that as well, so it's no surprise to see those same kind of colors and thematics kind of used in this merch drop as well. Now, as you go a little bit further, now we're taking a look at pieces that start at $75. However, the bundle itself has kind of changed given that you're now getting vinyl pieces instead of an actual CD as part of that bundle. Now, if you didn't know, as part of the roll-up, Travis Scott's bodyguards were basically seen holding these Utopia suitcases like this, with the interpretation that the top secret Travis Scott Utopia album is handcuffed to his pretty big bodyguards. Now, if you are a Travis Scott fan, you might as well like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what your favorite song is. Now, back to the actual merch drop itself, this is one of my favorite pieces I might have to pick up, and I think it was inspired by Iron Maiden's Eddie character, and if you're familiar and a metalhead, shout out to you. Now, the reason why I wanted to also bring up that suitcase is that it has to do with the whole Utopia branding with this, and I think that they're doing it pretty well. And as far as an update in terms of when the album will release or some more just general Utopia details, when you take a look at this piece of merch right here, the fact that there are 5 different album covers for Utopia, that lets us know that we can expect essentially 5 different covers. Now, if you haven't heard of something similar to that before, artists have definitely done that in the past. Now, here's one thing that I think all the super fans, the super ragers, or basically resale store owners will benefit from the most. At the bottom of the Utopia website, you're able to essentially add the entire collection to your cart in whatever size you want for the staggering price of $1,410. Now, for the biggest Travis Scott fan, I'm sure that's no question. And if you actually ended up picking up anything from this release, let me know here in the comments. And just for some additional information, if you did not know, at the end of this month on July 28th, Travis Scott plans to perform at the pyramids in Egypt, as you guys can see from this flyer here, which is being advertised on his Instagram, and I think as well as on his Twitter. So I think it's safe to say that the rager himself, Mr. Cactus Jack, aka LaFlame, is definitely dropping Utopia within the next couple of weeks, which I am super excited about. So if you made it this far, again, let me know your favorite Travis Scott song. Let me know in the comments if you actually copped any merch and what you think about this Utopia drop. And of course, what you think about this album rollout and if you're excited for Utopia in general. As always, guys, thanks for cooking with the kitchen. Stay safe. It's lit. Straight up. What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode. And today we're talking about the latest update with the Utopia merch. Now, all I'm going to say is 3 to 4 months shipping. What? Stay tuned to find out what exactly I'm talking about. Now, if you're like me, you've been enjoying Utopia and you think it's an absolute classic, but if you're ready for some more Travis Scott music, let me know in the comments. Now, when I saw Travis post this link on his IG story today for Utopia merch 2, I knew I had to make another video. And shout out to every single one of you that checked out my last video, and while you're here, you might as well like and subscribe. I've got something super special planned for everyone. And before I go any further, I also wanted to point out that my merch has finally started shipping, and we're looking at the Black Kaws collaboration tee that he actually posted on his story the other day, so make sure you guys stay tuned to your emails, and fingers crossed you get your email soon. And now for that special thing I have planned for you guys. What we're looking at is the first concert poster for Travis's first show during the Utopia era, which is supposed to be this upcoming August 7th in Italy. And I've been gaining a lot of new subscribers and friends from these Travis Scott videos, and it's made me realize one thing. If there's one way I could give back to you guys, I'd love to give you guys a concert ticket to this upcoming Utopia tour. So before we we hop into this new merch here in just a second, you heard that right. We're going to figure it out one way or another, but I'd like to buy one of you lucky fans a ticket to this upcoming Utopia tour once it's announced. Music is one of my favorite things, and going to shows is definitely something I miss, so I hope you guys can appreciate it. And again, make sure you guys stay tuned and go ahead and like and subscribe, because who the hell else is doing stuff like that? Now, the first thing that caught my eye when I opened up this page is the fact that the shipping is estimated to be 12 to 16 weeks. Yes, you heard that right. For this hoodie right here, we're looking at 3 to 4 months from the day you actually purchase to the day you get this in hand. Now, of course, we got to look at the next tee, and what are we looking at here? 6 to 8 weeks. So the merch is definitely now shipping out a lot slower, and this is very reminiscent of how Travis Scott was shipping for his Astroworld merch. Now, apart from these atrocious shipping times, I actually like this aesthetic. That last screwed tee that we looked at I think is pretty sick, and this DJ tee right here is definitely a shout out to the song Modern Jam off of Utopia, which Travis obviously says those words at the beginning of the song. Personally, one of my favorite songs off of the album. I think it's really crazy, and while you're here, let me know what your favorite is. Right now, my favorite is I Know, but it changes every day. Now, this next piece right here looks like some Playboy Cardi type shit, or something I could see him definitely wearing, so I think it's a pretty cool piece, and I like that all of this stuff is Utopia themed, of course. And another thing I wanted to point out that I've noticed is that the pricing is pretty consistent along with this Utopia merch drop, with tees starting at $55. And this next piece I think is actually pretty cool, so let's take a look at it. I feel like it's kind of a light version of the St. Michael tee collaboration we saw with the last Utopia drop. If you feel the same in the comments, let me know, and if you're picking up any of these pieces, let me know. As you can see, we've got a new hat in this drop right here, which I think there's a whole lot going on, and I don't know if I'm necessarily feeling it, but of course to each their own, and I'm never going to be a hater, especially when it comes to some new LaFlame merch. Now, overall, as we're going through this drop, I don't think that this is the strongest drop, but I think you guys are going to enjoy this next one. So next up, we of course have this $100 belt right here, and I don't know that I could necessarily wear it myself as a tall, lanky white dude in Florida. However, more power to you if you actually get it yourself.
How do you keep your pants up when you're performing? It's incredible. Belt.
Now, you already know I had to share a classic clip of Nardwuar interviewing Travis Scott from back in the day, and next up we've got these $150 brown jorts right here. Yup, they're jorts, and I think that they're pretty hard, but again, they have a whole lot going on, but I could definitely see how some trendier people than myself can pull off some crazy outfits with it. Next up, we've got some keychains to round off this Utopia merch drop 2, and again, I don't think that this is the strongest drop compared to the other ones we've seen. Now, one thing in Travis Scott merch tradition is that the man is going to have some kind of rug, so here we're taking a look at the Utopia merch rug, and just for comparison, I wanted to also include this rug from the Astroworld era. Now, with that being said, guys, most of the pieces, these first few bundles, are still back on the website, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get yet another drop at some point this week. I'm still expecting a merch drop to coincide with the actual release of the Utopia tour, so I did call it earlier in the comments, and it looks like these are still shipping allegedly within 1 week of the album, so probably they'll be disappearing by this upcoming Friday if I had to guess. Now, with that being said, guys, thank you so much for checking out the latest video. You guys have been running up these videos, and I enjoy making them and connecting with you guys, so stay tuned, of course. I'm working on another banger this week, so make sure you guys stay tuned. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching our videos. Thank you so much for cooking with the kitchen, and stay safe as always, guys. Peace. It's lit. What's going on, everybody? It's just another day in the kitchen, back with another episode, and today I'm all smiles just like Travis here, because we're going to be taking an in-hand look at the black Kaws Utopia tee, as well as the sizing and quality. And before we jump into the review, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of Kaws and Travis Scott collab history. As recent as 2021, the two brands collabed, and as you can see from the bottom comment, the shipping was also taking time back then. And here's a little video from the 2021 collab.
Yo, Rush,
Travis, 今どこにいる？
you're supposed to make it out into the Olympics, man. There's no flights.
とにかく落ち着いて。
Calm down. Ain't no calm down, man.
Take a deep breath and just use a fragment of your imagination.
All right. limits, man. Ah!
Now, if you didn't know, this was a triple collaboration between Travis Scott, the Fragment brand, and Kaws, of course. We did see some great merch, as you guys can see from these pieces here, and as always, with any great Travis Scott release, there's always some kind of rug. Now, if you did buy these Kaws pieces to go ahead and resell, as you can see, only 2 years later, they're not holding up that great, so personally, I think you should pick up these pieces if you're a fan and you actually want to rock it. And I just wanted to include this little bit from an article which shows that shipping back then was taking 6 weeks, so the fact that we're still missing our Utopia shipping is not that surprising. And just to give some perspective of how this merch shipping went for this black Kaws tee collab, I actually bought it the day it went live on July 28th and unfortunately didn't get it in hand until August 11th yesterday. And you already know that I felt like Travis here when I checked my phone and I saw that the shipping confirmation had begun. And although I'm still missing 5 shipping confirmations from the first week, I am thankful to get this piece, so let's go ahead and get into the collab. Now, I did feel a little bit crazy waiting an extra day to open this, given how this Utopia merch shipping fiasco has been, but I wanted to open this morning in the natural lighting so you guys can get a full view. Now, if you didn't know, this is the black Kaws Utopia tee collab along with the vinyl, and when I saw the package arrive yesterday like this, I wasn't sure at first if the actual shirt was with it. However, as you guys can see here in just a moment, I'm happy to report that it did arrive. And for all my real ones and ragers that are still waiting on your merch shipments, I'm really rooting for you guys. Now, I wanted to point out it's 90 degrees out here in Florida and I was sweating making this video, but I really do this for you, so I really appreciate every single one of you. And while you're here, you might as well go ahead and drop a like and subscribe. Now, just from opening the package like this, I was really happy to see the t-shirt was actually included first of all, and the fact that it had its own specialized Cactus Jack branding. I really appreciate these little details when it comes to these collabs, and I feel like it's the minimum that they can do when it comes to the effort, given that we've all been waiting for a long ass time at this point. And as you can see from the back of the packaging, there's not a whole lot going on besides just some random branding, which we don't really care about. Again, I was super stoked to see that the actual shirt arrived, and the actual package was a little bit heavier, so I figured it would be included. Now, next up, we did get the Utopia vinyl, and personally, I think that the value was great. Now, for this particular Utopia merch bundle, I ended up paying $65 before tax and shipping for the t-shirt and the vinyl. Personally, Utopia is my album of the year, and I haven't stopped listening to it every day since it dropped just a couple of weeks ago. And honestly, my favorite song changes every day, but I think I'm back to I Know being my favorite. And let me know in the comments which one is yours. One thing I wanted to point out about this vinyl pressing is the fact that it was actually made in Poland, so I think it's cool that it made its way all the way from California then to Florida. And shout out to all my viewers over there. Now, one thing I did see in the comments from a lot of people that got their merch before I did is the fact that the song Meltdown featuring Drake was replaced by the song A featuring Uzi, and sure enough, I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the track listing. Now, as you guys can see for track number 7, unfortunately this vinyl is missing the song Meltdown. However, I'm still happy and blessed and thankful, of course, that I did get it in hand. And let me know in the comments if your album has Meltdown or the song A on it. And now for the reason you guys are all here, let's go ahead and take a look at the actual tee itself. And from my first impression, I was actually super stoked and happy to see this. We'll go ahead and take a better look later in the video, but the actual Utopia logo has kind of like a raised texture to it, which I think you guys will appreciate. Now, starting off with the tag itself, you can see that it's 100% cotton, and personally I prefer tags like this instead of the hang tags that are traditional with shirts. Like I mentioned just a little bit ago, the Utopia logo here is raised and has a kind of different texture to it, which you guys are going to see here in just a moment. I went ahead and unfolded the tee so we can get a better look, and as you can see, we've got the Kaws logo right there in a dope graffiti type of style font, and then of course the Utopia logo on top of it. Now, I try to angle my camera as best as I could so you guys can see that the texture is raised and the Utopia logo kind of sits on top of it, and if you run your finger over it, you can feel that it's not quite part of the shirt and it's instead kind of resting over that Kaws logo. Personally, I love it, and although the front of the tee is kind of simple, I don't mind it because sometimes less is more, and having a little bit too much going on can be a little bit overwhelming. So this is the front of the tee, and let's go ahead and take a look at the back now. Now, personally, this graphic on the back is kind of what sold me on the shirt when I first laid my eyes on it. What's typical for Kaws themes are the X's over the eyes, and this little photo of baby Travis Scott is no different. Of course, I wanted to see if it is textured, so I went ahead and kind of zoomed in and ran my fingers over it, and unfortunately the X's aren't raised like the Utopia logo on the front, but overall, I personally love this whole aesthetic. And when it comes to the rest of the graphics on the back of the tee, none of them are raised unfortunately, but personally the quality of this is pretty good. And to be honest, I'm not sure whose hairs these are because I just unfolded it. But I wanted to go ahead and zoom in on the rest of the graphics just so you guys can see how the quality is and how the print is on the tee. It doesn't feel cheap and it doesn't look cheap, so personally I'm pretty happy. The colors themselves are pretty vibrant, and again, it's why I decided to do this video in the morning today and outside so we can get the actual natural lighting, and that way the camera can pick up just how vibrant these pieces are. Personally, I'm in love with this shirt before I even put it on, and just a little bit later in this video I will put it on so you guys can see what the sizing and feel looks like. Now, as far as the texture of the shirt and quality, I went ahead and did like a little field test here, and it is better quality than any kind of random shirt you'd pick up. Again, this retailed for $65, so I did hope and expect it would be better than Gildan quality, and it doesn't feel cheap at all. The shirt itself feels a little bit heavier and kind of weighted to it, which is classic for Travis Scott merch, and I can tell just from looking at it that it's going to be a little bit larger than a typical size large tee I would wear. Now, before we go into the actual fit of this, I also wanted to show you just a little bit more details when it comes to the vinyl. As you can see on the spine there, it features his name, and then of course we've got this dope little sticker. Now let's go ahead and see how this thing actually fits. Alright guys, so like I said earlier in this video, we're going to be taking a look at this actual Utopia merch sizing. And just for reference, right now I'm just wearing a regular size large t-shirt. I'm 6'3" or 192 centimeters and about 195 pounds. Just to show you what a regular size large looks like on me, I just want you guys to see this before we go ahead and hop into the actual Utopia merch. Alright guys, and here we are wearing the Utopia merch. As you can see right off the bat, the sleeves run a bit larger than the original shirt I had on, but overall the fit isn't that much larger. I recommend it to everybody to go true to size, and if I would have sized up to about an XL, I think it would have been a little bit too baggy on me. Personally, this large fits me just fine, and I just wanted you guys to see for reference just how it ends up sitting on me. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and personally, I'm in love with this material and I think I'll be rocking this all the time. Now, if you made it this far in the video, I just wanted to thank you for checking it out, and let me know in the comments what you think about the merch. I am still missing 5 pieces, but I'm so thankful that I got this Kaws Utopia tee. And as always guys, thank you so much for checking out the video. Let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments. Please stay safe out there guys. Stay tuned for some more heat. As soon as I do get some more merch pieces in, I do plan on doing a giveaway, so let me know in the comments if you're ready for that. And as always guys, thank you for cooking with the kitchen. It's lit. Straight up. Peace. Now, if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I'd love to know what you think. I decided to put this one together because I thought it would be interesting to see the evolution of Travis Scott's websites, merch, and albums throughout his career, and you can see how his vision has evolved as well. If you like what you guys see, make sure you guys stay subscribed, and let me know what you guys would like to see next. I hope that you all had a happy holiday, and I plan on seeing Travis in Orlando this upcoming January, where I hope to also give away some city-exclusive merch. As always guys, thank you so much for cooking with the kitchen. Remember to stay safe out there, and remember, it's lit. Straight up, and peace.